Maybe I'll try this one.
Hey y'all, hey, welcome to the Unangry Black Woman podcast, where we have real conversations with real people on real topics. I am your host, your healing coach, Tiffany Fox. Today's guest, we have none other than the wonderful Mrs. DeAndre Hardy. Y'all, I know her in real life, and she is the bomb, okay? I love her whole life. I love her family, so we're praying that she becomes Caden's mother-in-law. So y'all go ahead and lay hands towards the camera or the phone or wherever we're looking at today. But no, let me go ahead and introduce you. So DeAndre, she is the principal consultant and CEO of the Scene Society, which is her consulting business that focuses on increasing inclusive leadership practices. DeAndre provides career coaching for women leaders to find organizations and roles that enable them to leverage their strengths and thrive. All right.
Thank you for having me today.
Welcome. So tell me who you are. Who is DeAndre?
So DeAndre is someone who has used the things that have gone on in her life and challenges into making it my purpose and passion to make sure that spaces are inclusive. And so when I say that, I mean I'm a 23-year chronic illness survivor, now thriver. So I have learned how to be in remission, how to take care of my body. And I've also been able to leverage and build a really strong career. And so I took that and the lessons I learned into making the Scene Society, which is a space where women can receive career coaching, where I can talk to organizations about how to be more inclusive with people who have chronic invisible illnesses, because I don't think people realize or even know how big of a deal that is right now. And so that is what I've been doing the last 2 years.
I love it.
But also I'm a mom, so I have a beautiful daughter who will one day, our families will merge. So again, stretch forth your hands. And also I am a wife and a friend and a sister to many. So I love my family. They're always number one. And then, of course, juggling all of the things and the roles. But my tribe, my group of people keep me grounded.
Okay. I love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've watched the Scene Society come to life, and it has been amazing, and I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
So before we get into our topic today, tell me, why was it important for you to create this space?
Yes. So creating this space was really a labor of love and purpose. And I'm laughing because I know I talked to you about the creation of it for maybe a year and a half before I did it. And I was so nervous because it made me be vulnerable.
Right.
But it was important for me because I think it's an untold story. Everyone says, don't talk about your personal business at work. Don't talk about being sick at work because, that you'll be damaged goods, and if people know that you're chronically ill, you're never going to be successful. And I think that emulated what we have in society, where we have people who it's like all about maintaining an image, but we spend most of our time at work, a lot of time of our lives building our careers and building a legacy for our families, and our body and our wellness are like one of the main batteries or the engine to being able to do that. And so if we can't talk about something that is affecting our life that much in a space where we spend so much of our time, it's a huge miss for people who are working or building businesses, but it's also a huge miss for companies and organizations who have these great performers who are not engaging them in this way and not understanding how to help them be successful.
Absolutely. When you talk about chronic illness, just to give our audience a definition, what is included in chronic illness?
Yes. So a chronic illness is any illness that you have had for more than a year. So a year or more, that is an illness that does not have a cure. So it's something that can be managed, that can be medicated, but that from a medical perspective will never be cured or go away. So that is what a chronic illness is. So it can be anything from asthma, it can vitiligo, alopecia, to Crohn's disease, MS, lupus. All of those are different examples of a chronic illness.
And what you helped me discover is because I have a chronic illness, self-disclosure, completely diabetes. Mm-hmm. And so I think as Black women, right, because we're talking about our experience and our perspective, I think I didn't think about how it affect work. I think it was just, you take your blood sugar, you keep it moving, and let's go. And so just listening to you and hearing your heart and your experience, we do take these illnesses. I mean, we take pregnancy. While that's not a chronic illness, but, the things we do when we just try to get up and work. And so I think you have really gave me the awareness of how we bring all that stuff to work. But as Black women, we kind of pack it away and mask it and act like we're 100% and we're feeling, and we don't talk about it.
We don't. And we've been taught to just, keep it moving. This is your issue. This is your business. And so, just keep it moving, and you just try to manage instead of trying to find spaces that help me manage this in a better way. So yes, I'm going to always have to carry this with me. But if I got to go to work, it's different for entrepreneurs in a sense that you can be a part of creating the culture you want.
Right.
But for people who are still building that and also working in traditional roles at work, you're thinking, okay, if I got to go to work, then let me find and be intentional about spaces that will enable me to thrive and will enable me to be successful with the limitations and strengths that I bring.
Absolutely.
And so that's one of the things that I think a lot of us miss, because we think we have to just deal with what's been given to us. We have to accept, I need to hide in a bathroom to give myself insulin or whatever type of shot I may need, and they don't even have a sharps container.
Correct.
So
we're putting it back in.
So we're putting it in,
back.
and there's shame in that. We're carrying shame for something that is an easy step for another space, but we're carrying the shame of what we may put on a burden that we may put on an organization or a culture to shift, when really making that shift would help so many more other people too.
Absolutely. I love it. And I think we view it as a liability. And so we try to overcompensate because I'm not like everybody else, or I have a defect, or, so I love what you do.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Likewise.
Thank you. So today, because you are training and developing women in leaders, right? So not just women, but you're developing women leaders. I want to lend this conversation to talk about Black Girl Magic.
Yes.
Black Girl Magic, or is it a myth?
Yes.
Right? So let's go back to all the roles that you juggle. How do you juggle them?
Not with magic.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And I love that you asked that, because adding entrepreneur, and I tell people this in public and in private, I was not someone who woke up and was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur one day and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I was always like, I'm going to have a nice job. I'm going to get to this certain salary cap, and then I'll invest in real estate, and then I'll pop out with $1 million and nobody will know, right? I was not trying to be an entrepreneur. And so adding that to all of the other roles I'm still trying to find my balance with it. So how do I balance all of those roles is I have to have a support system. I have to have a village, and I have to communicate what I need. So God has blessed me with an amazing partner, my husband. He is the backbone of me, of everything. And he's someone who doesn't ask me to shrink. He doesn't ask, these other pieces. And so I'm so blessed, because God knew that I was going to need that when we met, but I had no idea, right? And so I'm so blessed that I have that partner. And then I have my family, my mom, I have, good girlfriends and friends that we can lean on, and then they can lean on us. But it's about community. There's no way I would be able to juggle all of the roles that I juggle without a strong village.
Absolutely. Real talk. I love it. So let's get into this Black Girl Magic or no, right? So how do you define Black Girl Magic?
So I define Black Girl Magic as just that boom, that something, that little spice and seasoning that we have when we do something.
Lemon pepper. No, just go ahead.
The lemon pepper wings. No, it's that extra seasoning that we do, the way that Black women show up and are able to contribute to so many things in society. And it just looks effortless from the outside. I think of all the ways that we have influenced culture, how we are we are the most educated group, and we still continue to juggle a lot of roles. And most new businesses, I think I read somewhere like 85 to 90% of new businesses that have started in the last couple of years were started by Black women. Absolutely. I think of the person who started Canva, right? Like, I mean, just these amazing ideas that come from us. And like I said, on the outside, it looks effortless, but it's this like little season that we have that we've just been blessed to carry, and this essence of leadership that we have.
I ditto that. I think it is our resilience, right? Yes. We bring a different type of strength. I think we can play the background, right, really well. I think we can lead the front, lead the charge. I think we are just, like you said, that extra zhuzh that we have. But I think that it hurts us because we feel like we have to, even lending back to the conversation at work, we feel like we always have to be on. We feel like it always has to be perfect. We feel like everything has to coordinate, match, line up all the time. And so I think that's the thorn in our side, right? And I think that becomes a detriment to us because we're striving for perfection that doesn't exist.
I agree. And I think that, so when I look at it from that positive lens, I love it. And then when I also think about what the like core of magic is, you know, magic is not real. Magic is something that non-humans, right? So mythology and all these superheroes, whatever. Magic is something that people who are more than human are able to do.
Correct.
And when you think about putting the weight of the perfection side of it on, it's like, am I even giving myself the expectation of something that is like humanly possible?
Correct.
And I was intentional about my words when I said on the outside it looks effortless, because other people will look at what you've accomplished, what you've done. They see that you show up with your face beat and your hair's laid and everything works out. But did they see that you didn't sleep for 2 days?
Correct.
Did they see that you cried in the car before you walked in somewhere? And these are true stories from the
my
journal.
Stories, right?
Did they see that you've questioned if you had the right team and all the work that it took to build a team? Did they see the work to do that you had to do to even ask for a team? Because a lot of times part of that, what we see as magic is that like, I got it, I'm gonna get it done. If I have to get it out the mud, if I have to get it out of whatever, it's gonna be built.
Absolutely.
But we have to do a lot of work to get to the point where we ask for help and ask for a team. And so those are the things that I think build that perfectionism, because people see it and they see you look effortless.
Right.
And then now you got to keep replicating that.
Correct. I think that, everything you said was on point. I think there's not enough self-compassion. I think there's not enough self-care, right? And like you said, as you build a team, you led our conversation talking about the village and the team. You got to have a village. You got to have a team, right? That doesn't mean that that's the team that you or the family that you were born into, right? But you have to create that. I think for us that are also leaders and moms, right? There's a lot of mommy guilt that we don't talk about. We had an event yesterday, and I had to be at the venue at 1, and I didn't leave till 11, but I didn't get my son from school. His dad got him. It wasn't a problem. But the mommy guilt, right? I wanted to get him. I wanted to, unpack the book bag and find out. I didn't find out till this morning how his day was, right? And so it's the mommy guilt. It's like you said, everything that we don't talk about, everything that you don't see, but it's been instilled. I think we're conditioned from little girls, right? Make sure your dress is good. Make sure everything has to be perfect. And that carries over to our adult life where everything has to be perfect. But like you said, we're chasing this magic and this perfection and this superhero and this, thing that doesn't exist, and it's killing us. It is absolutely killing us.
I agree. I have mommy guilt about not cooking. So I will publicly say that for the first time it was announced on the Unangry Black Woman stage that DeAndre Hardy does not cook. But so I could throw things together. My husband is absolutely a way better cook than I am, and he enjoys it.
Mine too. Shout out.
Yeah, shout out.
To B&C Insider.
And so he is like, but he thinks about like the spices and this or that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw a meal together, so it might as well be good. So again, perfectionism coming out in that.
Right.
But am I thinking about how all the flavors are blended? Like, no, I'm not doing that.
Who got time for that?
Right. I feel guilty because my daughter would come home from school, and, you know, I take the time to do homework with her or talk to her about her day. But then when he's cooking and I'm working on the business, I feel guilty because I'm like, oh, she should see me. Self-disclosure, again, I have problems with S's and R's, y'all. So, no judge me.
Not at all. Safe space.
Yes. But I should be the one she sees cooking. I should be the one she sees. And I know what you're looking at me. I got that look. I got the coach look right now if you can't see it.
Look. And here's the thing, that's a real thing, right? But who said that?
I know.
Right?
I know.
Who said that? Is the outcome her to eat a nutritious meal, for her to see the family, for her to see how the dynamics of the family work, or for her to adapt to gender roles? Mm-hmm. And then with a strong mother and father, her dumb herself down in her relationships because, oh, this isn't the gender roles that I grew up with, hence us, right? And so I always challenge our rules as perfectionists, as women, period. But us perfectionists, we have like this playbook that if we don't reach it, like it is way out there. The expectations, the bar, the standard is way out there. So much so that if we do something, it was good. Okay, it was good, but I could have done it better. Mm-hmm. If I had more time, or if I did it again, I would do it better. And so, and it's not an improvement thing. It's a perfection thing. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
And it's the littlest stuff that we can't control. Oh, did y'all see that lint on the floor? This was a beautiful production, and you worried about lint on the floor. So if you are a perfectionist, you know what I'm talking about, right? And then those of us that want to, we kind of tweak the words and say we do it in the spirit of excellence, right? And so, we're always finding these new sayings to justify our perfectionism. And if we're honest, that perfectionism keeps us from not being in the moment, from not celebrating, for not saying, damn, you did a good job. We like, okay, on to the next. Again, we talked about the event last night, and I woke up this morning like, let me plan 5 more things, right? And so I didn't even get to rest like I should, or reset, or just live in the moment of, wow, girl, you did this. Right. And I think as perfectionists, like, we're on always to the next thing.
Yes. And with that, I think we have that expectation of ourselves that we don't even have for other people. I was just talking to one of my good friends today, and I said, because was telling her about how there's a lot of natural connections and friendships that I think now there's this like Instagram and brunch culture around that, that me and another friend talked about. And so that I wanted to start just trying to like run errands with my friends and do those types of things so that we could just naturally spend time together and then not have to feel like a production. And I was telling her that somebody told me they feel nervous when I come to their house because I'm organized and I'm such a, like, I stress clean. So I'll just like, I'm like, I can't figure this out. So let me go like clean all the windowsills. And so
you can come over anytime you want to.
So she said she feels nervous when I come over. And she's like, I think you're going to notice this, that. And I'm like, I've been in your house several times and I've never seen this. And it's because I'm not looking for that in other people.
Absolutely.
But for some reason, I'm looking at the stuff, I have this expectation of myself that I would never put on somebody else. And it's the same with like having a chronic illness. When I talk to other women and they're like, oh, but I can't get this done because I have to sleep, or this limitation requires me to do X, Y, Z. And if I tell people, I'm going to disappoint them. And I look at them and I'm like, you would never do that to someone else, or let's say someone who was in a wheelchair for whatever number of reasons, you would never expect them and be disappointed when they didn't do something that required them to be out the wheelchair, right? And so just because someone can't see what you're going through, if you communicate your limitations, or I won't even say like call them limitations, I don't think they're weaknesses, but an accommodation that you need, then why reasonable people don't even think that. They say, oh, okay. But in our minds, we think that if I communicate that,
I'm weak.
Or
liability.
I'm a letdown.
Right.
I'm this or that. I'm disappointing someone. And other people don't ever think that about us.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's that example of like, when I go to other people's house, I'm so wrapped up into spending time with them, playing with their kids, connecting with my friends. I'm not even seeing anything with them. But when people come to my house, I'll almost cancel the event if there's a stain on my carpet. Right. So it's that expectation.
Yeah, it is. And it's tough. So what do you think we can do about it?
I think we have to start being vulnerable and honest about our needs.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It is.
Because several people have told me, like, you need to ask for help or you need to do X, Y, Z. And it took years for me to be able to do it. It took years for me to be able to say the expectation of perfectionism you have for yourself is not real and is actually unkind to yourself. And then how do you work through that? And so I think it's starting to get comfortable with asking for help and telling people the real. Like, so I'll call you and tell you, I ugly cried because XYZ didn't happen. And I was so stressed out about this so that when Bojangles didn't give me my biscuit,
I went off.
I ugly cried. Right. And that's me. I'll go off. And then after I go off, I'll go ugly cry. Like she was not that hard. She was over there in the parking lot crying. And so, but that's, I think, telling people the real and telling people what you really need to say, hey, I feel anxiety about this event I'm having. And you as my friend, if you have capacity, do you mind showing up to do X, Y, Z?
Absolutely.
Or do you mind just being there? Because if I can just look over at your eyes while I'm talking and you just shake your head, I know I'm going to be okay. Absolutely. Or telling your partner, do you mind cooking? I used to try to stress myself out to cook. And he's like, I need you to stop because you're mad. Like, you're not even happy doing it. Like, no one wants to even eat dinner with you after this. And so it's like actually just saying what you need and asking and being real, being okay with being vulnerable.
Yeah. I've come to the realization, like, I need all of that. I need a chef. I need a driver. I need a maid. So I'm going to get me a whole staff, okay?
You're about to outsource.
Yeah. That's that soft girl life for me. That's the next black magic, right? My other thing is, I'm guilty of telling not just my children. I tell both of them because they're black children, but especially my daughter. You've got to work harder than everyone else. Right. And so I tell my son, but I tell him in a different way. But my daughter, she's a dancer. And so she likes classical dance. So ballet, she's taken it all, but ballet was her passion at one point. And I would have to tell her, your hips aren't like the rest of the ballerinas, right? And not that we had to do any meal planning, but I wanted her to know she's tapping into a field that I think Misty Copeland kind of broke through and brought awareness to, but there's still stigma. There's still stereotypes. And so I need you to understand that you may not get the roles that you want, not because of your talent, but because of your look, and because you're not what everybody expects, to be in that lead role. And so I remember she would do summer intensives, different places, and she experienced her first stint of racism at, it was, where was she at? What's in Winston, the University of the Arts? Yeah, UNC, the Arts. And so, we had to work through that because she finally saw in the classical world, the stigma and things like that. And so, again, I'm guilty of saying you have to work harder. And I think for me, that's where I conditioned her. And then that's where I was conditioned as a child, because you have to work harder. You know, I came from a single parent home, and so I fought to belong. And so I had to be first in class. I had to graduate valedictorian. I had to get scholarships. I had to prove. That's where the perfectionist started and the overachievement started, because I had to prove that I belonged here. Now, if we're honest, the root was abandonment. That's another, podcast. But I was conditioned to perform. Very performance-driven household, very you perform. It looks good. I don't care when we have to come home, the things we have to deal with at home. When we step over this threshold, you're on. And so I think I conditioned my daughter that way, because even unintentionally, her perfectionism, I'm like, girl, we got to dial that back. I've created a monster, and even with my son, even though I haven't conditioned him in that way, he has taken on my spirit of perfectionism. And so I'm like, we pass it down unintentionally. And I'm like, I'm tearing these kids up.
Right. And similar story, I was raised in the house with my mom, who is a veteran, so she was active duty military, and then my grandmother, who is now deceased, but she lived with us for 8 years and helped raise me, so I didn't have to move around every time my mom got deployed. And so I was naturally a learner and naturally good at school. But my grandmother, I did not realize, and I called her my granny. So my granny, I did not realize, I didn't know a lot of her story. She didn't share a lot of her story with me, but she created a performance-driven space of, you have to look this way. I mean, etiquette lessons. I had to formally set the table so that I knew how to eat when I was in places. Speech, I was not allowed to use slang at all in any, the fact that I'm saying slang lets you know, because she was like, no. I was not allowed to use slang. I had to sit up at the table, very just performance driven, because she was like, I want you to know how to operate in this world. You never go out the house looking bad, any of that. And so growing up, it was all about what it looked like. So I subconsciously learned that as long as it looked good, it didn't matter what was really going on. And so I was at my sickest point as a young adult, because I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 12.
Okay.
And so high school, I'm trying to get to college. I'm trying to do all of these things. So there are some experiences that I had where I knew I was pushing myself and nobody around me knew. To the verge of I probably should have been in the hospital. And I'm pushing myself, and I'm so good at it by this point, nobody knows. I'm so good at hiding that I'm sick. I get to the hospital, and they're like, you got to get airflown to San Antonio's Air Force Base Hospital because you're that sick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I just finished doing a presentation. So that's where I learned that. And when I learned her story, I learned that her mom passed when she was young, and she moved to Chicago, and she had godparents who were white. And so she was raised in that environment. They were pretty well-to-do, and she was raised in that environment. She ended up being a scrub nurse, one of the first Black scrub nurses in the town. And she always felt, my mom shared with me that my grandmother told her she always felt taken, they took care of her because it was their obligation, but they didn't really love her. Okay. And so she learned to perform and make things look good so that she could get that love. Yeah. So that's how, I think, I know she loved me more than anything, but I think that was her way of trying to prepare me for whatever world was going to be for me, that she had no idea, how much the world would change and all of that. And so when I think about that, I think about with my daughter, because now she has picked up on some of those perfectionist pieces, but she has more of a nervousness. Okay. Sometimes if she's not 100% sure she can do it 100% right, she'll have some nervousness, or she'll say afterwards, she'll know exactly what she did wrong first. And so I'm trying to break that with her. And I'm like, I know even though I didn't do that to her, she picked it up from how I talked about myself and my accomplishments. And so I'm trying to break that from her and find the balance of like educating and preparing them, but also saying like, if you've done your best and you show up as your best,
Right.
how do I equip you to build your own table? Because it's not always on you to have to disrupt something that's going to break you.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And your grandma, and thank you so much for sharing your story and your grandmother's story. I think our ancestors, you know, performing was the way out, right?
It was survival.
It was survival. And so whether it was education, whether it was, you know, anything, performance was, like you said, survival. And so I think for them to pass that down, they didn't know, you know, that they would raise perfectionists and all this, you know, black girl magic stuff. But I think it was, you know, about survival, and it was about, you know, getting out of certain situations, you know, or having options. And so our family, we come from a very, very educational driven family. And so I had to check my thoughts on education because I just adopted it from them. Does everybody need to go to college? I just knew I had to. And so it was like, but do we really have to go? You know, does it? And so I think our generation then started to question, you know, does it have to be this way? Does it have to be all this performance? What about arts? Or what about, you know, doing stuff we love versus what we have to do? And so, you know, shout out to the boomers and their parents because they did what they knew how to do, right? And it was to perform. But what it did was it created a generation of overachievers. And so what happens is, I always say the medical student syndrome. What happened is we have all these accomplishments. We get to medical school, and there's a lot of medical students that die by suicide because they fail out. They, you know, fail a test, or, you know, with nursing and pre-med and medical school, you can't fail them classes. It's a competitive.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So if you fail one class, you're out. And so what happens is they fail a test and they don't know how to deal with the failure because they're chasing perfection. And they're dying by suicide. And so I know that's true for a lot of our black women leaders who get high in leadership. It's taking toll on their mental health.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And it's all over LinkedIn right now.
Okay.
It's a conversation that I'm so glad has come to the forefront, because they're finding that are happening in these stories is that these women have worked, you know, so hard to get to, finally, I'm in the C-suite, right? So I'm a chief. I have chief in front of my name, or I'm a VP, and I get this role, and then they get in the role and they find out that's what they're calling the glass ceiling. So there's no opportunity for growth, but there also is no support around them. There's either limited financial resources, they have a limited or little to no team. The amount of women leaders I've talked to who's like, oh, I just have a team of one, of black women leaders, where that same role before them had a team of 5, or that same role comparable in another area that's led by someone who is not black or not a woman has a big team. I'm like, this is egregious at this point. Like, it's ridiculous. So there's that. And then they're still telling themselves, okay, well, I made it here. I'm the example. And you know, I have these people I'm leading who look up to me. So they're still trying to accomplish whatever goal they set out or do the job and do it well. And then they're getting like doors shut in their face. They're getting bullied, or people just aren't believing their experiences. And so then you start to question even if that happens to you on a smaller scale, because it happened to me on a smaller scale. But you start to question, like, well, am I really talented? Did I really get here by merit? What is everyone thinking about me? If I ask for this, you start to weigh what you need so that you don't seem like you're asking for stuff all the time. When in reality, like, I have a diverse network. So I've talked to another woman leader who is not a black woman leader. And in her interview, she could tell them what she was going to be great at and what she needed support to grow in. And they gave her like a leadership coach. Like, part of her benefits package or her compensation package was getting a coach to be able to reach some of those goals. And it's like, see how quiet it is in here? Because that is not something that a lot of people would even have felt comfortable discussing at the interview level to be able to negotiate that.
Right.
Because we haven't been coached to do that.
Correct. We've been coached to minimize our weaknesses or areas of opportunities. Well, what do you need help in? I need to understand that I can't help everyone. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or I need to stop, they will say, I need to stop being a perfectionist, or I need to learn how to delegate and coach up this group better. But it's not a real I need help with,
right.
I don't have XYZ in my background. And yes, while I can drive this forward, if this is still a priority, I would be a better asset if this was strengthened by an outside coach, right? None of people have not had the script to do that before.
Just even hearing that, my back self-disclosure, back to my perfectionist, I was like, I would never, right? When I was in corporate, I would never interview and say anything. We got a question from production. Production, you got something over there? Yes. Lend into the Black Girl Magic conversation.
Well, I definitely have a question.
Got you.
Because I'm not a black girl. But, so all of the struggles that you guys have, all of the, like you said, you're basically doing this by yourself. A team of one, perfectionist, all that stuff that's bottled up. Black girl magic, however you want to label it, right?
Yes.
How does the world receive that?
How does the world receive our Black Girl Magic or our perfectionism? Or
so do they receive that as strength? Do they receive that as bitchiness? Do they receive that as just all of these different things that I know that women, especially when even us calling you strong women, you know what I'm saying? Just how are you received by the outside world for everything that you're doing? How does the outside world receive you? How do they receive that? I hope that makes sense.
It does. I'll go first. I think for me, it depends on who the audience is. I think sometimes if we're up against a man, let's just talk about work. If we're up against a male leader, right, and we're strong, it can come across as bitchy, right? We can't be as stern and as strict and as straightforward as a man in leadership because that's not our role. I think even as an entrepreneur, right, against my counterparts who are males, when I go in and negotiate, it's different, right? I still have to have a femininity or a niceness about me to get a contract versus a male that can come in and just be straightforward. So it all depends on who the audience is. I think sometimes if you're trying to date or a partner, like Dee said, she has a partner that understands and that doesn't make her shrink. I have the same, but there's not a lot of men who, can stand next to such a strong woman without feeling or being insecure, if that makes sense. So I guess it all depends. And if you ask the children that we're rearing, right, it depends. It can be, she's no nonsense, or mommy, or it can be a heroic thing where, my mom is doing that. She has this. So it all depends on the audience. For me, it's 50-50. I get negative feedback or negative, I don't want to say feedback, but negative experiences, and then I get positive. I think once you get to know me, it's all in the relationship. Once you get to know me, we're good. But going in for the contract, going in for, the business deal, going in for the negotiation is tough. Being in a relationship is tough because I'm a little tough, right? A lot tough in my relationship. So I think it's all in the relationship. But for me personally, it's 50-50. About you?
I will say, in general, I think there's so many books out about, there's one called I'm Not Yelling, and I'll give you the author of that book because it's escaping me right now, but it's called I'm Not Yelling, and it's about Black women communication in the workforce. And it's because generally it's taken as being angry, it's taken as aggressive, or just not like the niceties. And I think there's this expectation for women to have more niceties in the workplace anyway, like start their email with, I hope you're having a nice weekend, blah, 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 blah. Like all of that, where men, it's like you get an email from them and it's like, hi, can you send this by 6 p.m.? But for us, it's like we're conditioned to have these niceties. And so then layer that on top of how society has been conditioned to view Black women communication and how we show up as leaders. People automatically assume that you're angry, or they call you difficult, or they call you, unapproachable is their way of, oh, can you try to be more approachable? And it's like, well, I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job. I'm leading people. I'm accomplishing these things. So what do you really mean by approachable? Does that mean having these niceties? Does that mean you want me to shrink? Does that mean I need to do all of these other things to let you know that I'm not a threat? Like, what does that really mean? And so that's in general, I think that happens in the workplace. I think what happens outside of work is when we can finally take off the mask, we're so exhausted that the communication comes out in a way that we don't want it to come out. Like, because we can take off the mask at home. So if I'm spending so much time putting so much energy into trying to be nice or approachable in a way that if this culture is never going to see what I bring to the table as valuable, then I'll bend myself so much to where I'm unrecognizable to me, and I'm not even giving my best ideas. I'm not even leading the best way that I can because I'm trying to fit into their box. Then when I get home, I'm so exhausted, I am angry, I am tired, because that's the only place I can show it. Absolutely. So I think that's generally how it happens, but it doesn't have to. So there's a lot of women leaders who step down from their CEO positions in the last year. And while people were sad that diversity of thought and all of that was leaving those companies, which I agree, we should have diverse workforce, and they probably brought so much to that company and to the table, I was happy that they were choosing themselves.
Right, absolutely.
And I was happy to see so many people choose themselves and it be celebrated as, while we hate that your contributions will no longer be there, I hope that whatever is next for you brings you the absolute most joy.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have anything else to prove.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
The book you were talking about, is that Elizabeth Liba?
Yes.
How you say that? Okay, so I'm Not Yelling by Elizabeth Liba.
Yes.
And I'm looking at this. This is awesome. I need to put that on my list. The other thing I had to overcome was I had to be okay with me. Right. And so, of course, the phrase is unapologetically, right, myself. But I really had to understand me, and I have to check myself. I'm doing a speaking engagement in a couple of weeks. And so we had a flyer. And so the women on the flyer did not look like me. We were all the same color. Right. But they did not look like me. And so they were, collared up, buttoned up, and so in my picture, I'm the healing coach, right? And so I'm like, goodness, should I give them a different picture with a blouse and a blazer? And I said, no. They booked the healing coach. They know what they're getting in the healing coach. So I think, like you said, choosing you and just understanding what you bring to the table is huge in every area. And so I think we often have to remind ourselves of imposter syndrome, and that, we're good enough. And what I stopped doing was I stopped trying to sit at the table and create my own.
Yes.
And so I think when we create safe spaces and spaces where we embrace everyone, I think that we then begin to say, I don't want to sit at this table anymore. This corporate table was nice. This VP, the C-suite is great. To sit here anymore, right? And I think we have the right, but we need permission to go ahead and make sure, we give permission to ourselves to say, do I sit at this table, or is it not working for me?
Yes.
So
I also think that there's vulnerability in being authentic. So everyone talks about, be authentic, show up as you, be unapologetically, like you said, be unapologetically yourself, but they don't talk about, okay, when they accept it, it feels good. I can show up as me. I can do, but you have to be okay with losing some of the opportunities that aren't for you.
Correct.
And it's hard to be in that space, especially when we still need money to survive. We still have a lifestyle. We still are building futures for legacy, however that looks. I think it's a hard space to get to. So everyone celebrates authenticity when it works out, but you also have to be okay when it doesn't, to say, you know what, this space isn't for me right now, or may not be for me ever, and I'm okay with that if I'm going to honor authenticity.
I love it. I have a question.
Sure.
Can we have it all?
I say, and you know, I'm okay. I'm stepping in my authentic space. I say you cannot have it all at the same time.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So there are people who say no trade-offs. Women can absolutely have it all, and there are no trade-offs. I don't subscribe. I don't think anyone can have it all with no trade-offs. Okay. But I think that, can you have a great career? Yes. Can you be a great wife, mom, have this high lifestyle? Yes. At some point, you have to decide you're only one person. So there's only so many priorities you can have at once. So, and those are just the two I named. So there's other, like, okay, I want to lose weight. I want to, or, you know, be healthy, lose weight, and have this career, and have this lifestyle, right? And build a business. Mm-hmm. Can I do all of those at once? Can all of those happen in my life or in a certain time frame? Yes. Can I build all of them to where that all happens at once and I have it all the time? No. I think that sets people, I think that's where this unrealistic expectation of overnight success, or, you know, we see this Instagram or TikTok lifestyle, and we think that it just happens overnight. And I think that's why, because I think that thought of I can have it all at the same time sets people up for an unrealistic expectation.
I love it. I'm going to jump in with another question, because I know you like Beyonce. Does Beyonce have it all?
From what I would actually say no. Beyonce has sacrificed. We look at what she has, and is she successful? And yes, I'm a nice beehiver. Okay. But
I ain't want to say nothing. That's
I'll be attacking people in comments and stuff, so don't come for me in the comments. But I love Beyonce. I think that she is a great artist. I think from a business standpoint, she's done amazing things business-wise. Her marketing is a masterclass in itself. Family.
Ooh, I love her marketing.
Yes. But would I say she has it all? On the outside, like, you know, she has a lot of material things and like a family-wise good relationship with her mom from what we can see. But we have to remember, she started her career so young. Like, she didn't have a normal childhood or a normal teenage life. She's always been in the spotlight. She can't have normal privacy. So there are trade-offs. Like, and do I think they worked for her? I mean, I don't know her, but on the outside looking in, yeah, they work. But would I, as a mom, and I think she talked about this in the Renaissance movie, like, as a mom, knowing the pressure that your child now wants to be in the limelight, and how she even talked about how she grappled with that because she knows how ugly it can be. And I don't, so it's like she still had to consider a trade-off.
Absolutely.
So I don't think she has it all the time at the same time. Yeah.
And I agree. I think you can have it over your lifespan, right? But I think when you have competing priorities, you do have to pick the seasons. And so I think people especially look at, for me, entrepreneurship, where you get to do that full time, or you have time freedom, or you get to, you didn't see the time when I was a stay-at-home mom. Right? You didn't see the time for 14 years when I was a single mom. I had 2 jobs around the clock, sometimes 3. So you don't always get to see, like you said, that part. But I think you have competing priorities. And this is permission, right? This is permission to pick a priority for this season. You know, me and my husband, we always say, who's going to be the superstar this year, right? Because he can't fulfill his dreams or go back to school, and I'm over here doing this. So what does it look like? You know, and we've agreed on seasons of superstar, right? And so there was a time where I wasn't working, and I was staying at home with the baby. And then now he's able to sustain with, his career. And then I'm able to, pursue entrepreneurship. So even in the relationships, right, there has to be a priority. Even when we talk about going hard with health, if you really go hard, that is very time consuming. No days off. And that's not just exercise, right? That is being conscious. I think our year last year was like a health year. Like we focused all on our health, and it was very expensive. It was very time consuming, and so again, I think each season has to have a priority in the accumulation of everything. But like you said in the documentary with Beyonce, she talked about the mommy guilt, and then she talked about when she gets off the stage, her kids don't care nothing about that she Beyonce, right? They want mommy. The other part was, and I thought this was so, because she handles stuff with grace from what I see, right? But she says people be trying to play her. Yes. When we saw the man, she was like, so you saying this doesn't exist? And he like, no, that doesn't exist.
With a straight face. No, it don't exist.
She said, that's funny because I've been researching it, and it's, and so she said that she still has to prove, her point in a male-dominated society. And her thing was, they just give up because they see she's not giving up. And so I don't think she has it all. I think she has what we deem success, but I think now she's even at a better place where she has freedom. And again, that's all about where you are in life and what that means. And so she can be herself because she's been Beyonce on for so many. She's been everything what everybody else wanted, her to be. I think about Whitney Houston. She had to be America's Brandy. You know what I mean? So they had to fit in this box for so many years. And so they're just now able to do the things that we're able to do.
Yes,
right?
And I love in that film when she talks about how she's gotten to this point at 40 and after 40 that it's like, I don't care anymore. So if it doesn't work out for me, I can walk away from the table. But what it takes to get to that point is the trade-off.
Right.
And so, again, outside looking in, the money, the success, the fame, there is what we see as, oh, they have it all. But, I mean, could you consistently work on something with that much dedication and that time? And yes, she has a team at this point, but like for 4 years and even the years before that. So yeah, I would say that she doesn't have it all at the same time, even still.
Right.
So yeah.
And she sacrificed. She knew she didn't want motherhood at a certain point, and she knew she didn't want to be married. You know what I mean? And so she had a goal. And so again, she prioritized what was, Jay-Z stayed, but a lot of men with that rejection, like, oh, you ain't gonna marry me? You know what I mean? But she was focused. So again, I think, we just have to prioritize the priorities and not try to permission to try not to do everything at the same time. Right. And I think as women, we just juggle everything and feel like, I want to dispel a myth about balance. There's no such thing as balance. Right. Nothing. We don't have a will. And this is 25 and 25 and 25 and 25. No, today my family needs me. So my family gets 75%. The business may get 10% today. This may get 5%. And then the next week, the business needs me. So again, talking about yesterday, the event needed me. So I had to give 80% there. I think my husband would probably say 95% there, right? But I had to be there, and then today, I get to do the family thing. So I think balance is understanding what needs your attention and make sure you're included in that, right? Because you need your attention. And so just understanding what needs the attention and how to appropriate the amount of energy and not try to do everything all at one time like we do.
Yes. Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
I also think that part of this Black Girl Magic piece that we put on ourselves is not giving ourselves permission to be beginners. And I saw, it was Janelle Monáe. She said when she was she had a interview with Angie Martinez, and I love Angie Martinez. And so she was saying that you don't give yourself permission to be a beginner, and so you miss these like things that you should learn, or you miss other people seeing you learn. And I think a lot of times with the Black Girl Magic, the hard part of it is we learn all these lessons in private. And then when we feel like we're finally ready, we put on this, nothing's flawless, but we put on what everyone else deems as this big success. But it was important to share those lessons with who's looking at you too. Like for me, I had to, and this is with building a business, because I will stop. I'm like, I'm not posting that because I have a wayward lock in the right side of my head, and in the video I didn't fix it, so I'm not posting it. Or because I don't have this type of XYZ production right now, then I'm not going to post this. And it's like, no, people crave authenticity, but also there's people looking at you who need to see your lessons.
Absolutely.
And so, but we've been conditioned there where people can't see me as a beginner.
Right.
And that's where that comes from. Yes, there's vulnerability in an interview. So there's a strategy that I can teach, shameless plug.
No, we
that
about to
I
get
can
your
teach
information
about
in one
how you package that.
Right.
But I think that's where that comes from of, oh, I'll never let anybody know that this is an area of opportunity for me.
Absolutely.
Or I give a fake answer when I say this is what I really need help with, because we've told ourselves that we can't be publicly a beginner.
Right.
But at what other area of expectation do you just show up and people expect you to know everything and perform 100%?
And I blame social media.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I blame our culture because they teach you to show up as the expert. Mm-hmm. You know, if you hear coaches, show up as the expert in your industry, show up as the expert. How? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, back to pressure, like we look at, reels and productions, and, another person I love marketing is BB Judy. Mm-hmm. Right. Judy will come on with the bonnet. She will come on eating. Mm-hmm. Right. She will give you herself. Mm-hmm. She will. Now she got a crew. She got marketing. She got all the professional stuff too. But she's going to get on live with her baby while she's feeding her baby, and she's going to tell you, go get Kaleidoscope. It's on sale now. Okay, bye. Right? And so I think those are refreshing to me because I'm like, okay, I don't got to be perfect because I would never come in a bonnet. Right? And so it gives us permission, like you said, to begin and to learn how to be the expert. We already have the talent. We already have the knowledge, right? It's now just getting it in front of people. And like you said, there are people that are assigned to you that can't get to you because you too worry about the wayward lock. Get on the live.
Right.
Okay? All right.
Yeah, and then your group. So like my demographic of women, what was breaking us what's part of what's breaking us is trying to hide a part of us and hide our needs. And so we're staying in these environments to say, well, I'll change for this environment, but not out of fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear that there may be nothing else better, fear that we can't live up. So if I show up and I'm always perfect and I never talk about my mistakes and I never post something and then I'm like, oh, y'all, this is the real, if I show up and I'm perfect, what is that saying to the women that I'm trying to reach? That's not helping them to get out of staying in that space and behavior that is continuing to contribute to breaking them.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was just telling a couple people this past Thanksgiving, we've watched grandma, mama and them, auntie and them do Thanksgiving. We've never seen them sit down and eat. They cooking, they cleaning, they may nibble here and there, but that is how we're conditioned. Nobody sat and told us, right? You don't eat on this is how you, right? But we've watched the women before us just work till to the bone, till they exhausted, right? And so again, you have to be what you want those to become, right? And so that is for our daughters. That is for the women coming, behind us. On that note, what would you say to the women struggling with Black Girl Magic?
I would say that being you is the magic, right? So being you is the magic. Your gifts, your talents, everything that you have inside of you and the way that the creativity you have, whatever ideas you have, that's the magic. But we cannot, and that's creator-given, God-given, universe-given, however people identify that as, I believe God-given. But we cannot fully embrace it and we cannot fully let it show, and it never gets to its potential if it's only us who carries all the responsibility. So we have to be able to share our vision and ask for help and be able to be vulnerable so that we can accomplish all the things that we're supposed to accomplish. So yes, are you magic? Yes, because you inherently are divine and have that within you. But do you hold yourself to a superhuman, unrealistic expectation? That will never get you to where your purpose to go. And so that's my advice about that.
I love it. I love it. So tell us how we can find you, how we can connect, and what do you have coming up next?
Yes, so I am on the platforms Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn and TikTok as The Scene Society. You can also go to the website, thescenesociety.com. And what I have coming up next is I continually have conversations every Saturday. Let me do it again.
Okay.
Because it's not every Saturday.
Oh, okay.
I say 1 to 2. I'll just say 2 Saturdays a month. Okay. Sorry.
No problem. So how can we find you? How can we connect? And what do you have coming up next?
Yes, so you can find me on all platforms, on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as The Scene Society, also thescenesociety.com, and my name, DeAndre Hardy / The Scene Society on LinkedIn. And coming up next, I have a conversation called Scene Saturdays that I have with women who have built their own tables, who are either living with invisible illness or just women leaders who are building things to empower others. And so that is up to every 2 Saturdays a month. I have that, and I advertise that on my social media outlets. Everyone is welcome to be in the audience and comment on the lives. And then I have a career course specifically designed for women with unseen challenges. So whether you have a chronic illness or not, if you have a challenge that people can't see, if you've second-guessed yourself, I have a career course that helps you figure out what environment you need to thrive in and then build a strategy, a 3 to 6 month strategy about what different role or different organizations you need to before you do your resume to be able to leverage all of the different tools in a career toolkit to get to a different space. And I also am having a women's summit this September, so I will have more information about that as those details come together. But I am publicly giving myself permission to announce that and do it without holding myself to an unrealistic expectation. So you heard it here first.
Yes.
So those are the things I would love to connect. People can click in my link tree that's on all those platforms and be able to schedule a 15-minute free consultation with me if you have questions, talk about alignment. And if we don't align, I have a great network of people to be able to help. So all about empowerment.
All right. And we'll make sure your information is in the comments and on the link. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I know we can talk for forever. And so I loved being in this space and having this conversation with you on this platform.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all your stories, your vulnerability, your talents, and giving us resources. So we really, really enjoyed this. And we will definitely have you back. Will you come back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'll be back.
Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in again to another episode of The Unangry Black Woman. The conversation does not have to stop here. Go ahead and connect with us at Tiffany Fox Inc. on Facebook and Tiffany Fox Inc. on Instagram. Feel free to put the topics and comments that you want to share or maybe hear at some of our episodes. Again, until we meet again, go ahead and understand healing happens in community and continue to be great.